show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Governance Code, Chapter 551. At this time, if you join me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. All right. First thing on the agenda will be roll call of all members present and members absent. We'll go with members present first. Ms. Despon Cruz.
Esteban Cerdas here.
Okay, Mr. Serta. Sorry, my mistake. Ms. Felicia Moody.
Here.
Ms. Maria Douglas.
Here.
Mr. Sean Glovier.
Here.
Ms. Debbie Villagomez.
Here.
Darrell Owens is here. Ms. Maria Cruz Perez is on her way. She should be here shortly. Okay. And then we'll go to the public comment section. Mr. Serta,
We do.
do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We have one person.
One person? Okay, we'll first go for any public comments on the agenda item, and we have no one signed up for that. And we will then go to public comments on non-agenda items. And we do have one person, that is Flora, is it Relaford? That's correct. Okay, great, all right. And Ms. Relaford, if you'd come forward.
Hello, my name again is Flora Relaford. I'm here representing the Irene Sargent Community Center. We're in the process of planning and collaborating a parade, and we would like to be placed on your March agenda. And later we'll come back and ask for staging at the Delaney Elementary School for the parade. Okay.
What's the parade for?
Juneteenth.
Oh, Juneteenth. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I was trying to think of what was happening in March.
No.
You want to be on the March
No,
agenda?
March
The
agenda
March
is what
agenda.
we're requesting, yes. That's all, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll go now to section 5, which is going to be special district recognitions. Mr. G.
All right, so we'll start off with the Paul Awards. The first award goes to board member Debbie Villagomez. Second is Central Office, Andrea Volding, April Ward, Brandy King, Claude Rhodes, Danelle Dickey, Dr. Vu, Dr. Devlin, Dr. Keys, Jeremy Snyder, Jill Smith, and Shannon Moe, too. Delaney Elementary, Denise Mikesick. Okay.
Thanks.
I always, Aaron Hitt, Marissa Son, Natalie Ayton, and Terry Allen. At Patterson Elementary, we have Angela Lilly, April Brooks has 2, April Winders, Ashley Rogers, David Bubel, Debbie Lavador 2, Gail Haskins 2, Kara Bowman, Kim Hamblin, Christy Morrell, Lacey Queen, Lauren Long, Leanne Zimmerman, Tiffany Stevens, Rachel Parker has 2. In Kennedale High School, Andrew Kupka, Candy Allstott, Chris Burke, Coach Trantham, Danny Wilcox, Dr. Chelsea Allison has 2, Dr. Josh Robinson, Emily Stevenson, Jenna French, Kristen Dunn, Linda Madrano, Lindsay Hammond has 2, Mary Hayes, Melissa Springfield, Michael Cagle, Monica Stevens, Stacy Zachary, Nanette Tate, Philip Oakley, Ronald Burke, Shelley Pajewski, and substitute teacher, Mr. Hatfield. And then at the junior high school, we have quite a long list here. So we have Aletha Daniels, Angela Bruce, Cameron Nicholson, Casey Thompson has 3, Chris Hendry has 3, Coach Cohen has 2, Coach Irby, Crystal Applon, Garland Washington, Gilberto Diaz, Jamie Sprinkle, Jessica Gilbert, Jonathan Johnson has 2, Kristen Callahan, Krista Branch, Lydia Daniels, Nabra Tovar, Myra Tovar, sorry. Mimi Bumpus, Julia Ortega, 3, Johnny Walker, Daisha Jennerson, Maria Ortega, Heather Beach, Nurse Brenda, Nurse Chavez has 2, Olivia Bishop, Peyton Semino, Robin Fleeman, Rosie Sandoval has 3, Sherry Mahaney, Shanta Stevens, Stacy Bitnick has 4, Stevie Moore has 4, and Taylor Ferris has 3. And that's our Paul Awards for this.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. G. Next, we'll go to Patterson Student Recognitions.
Okay, and who's representing or coming down for Patterson? You want to come down first? Ms. Clark? Okay. All right.
We did get word that one of our students went to the campus, so they may be coming a little later.
So we want to do it later?
Let's let Delaney go first.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I don't think we have,
Oh, they're not. Okay.
they're not, so
What would you like to do?
we can postpone it. We can,
Okay.
unless the student
Okay.
arrive here. So
Okay.
we'll do that. We'll come back to it.
Okay, so great, that's student council and math intervention success, all of that.
So we'll just
Okay, we'll move on to
that.
6. Okay. We'll then go to section 6. It's going to be the consent agenda. So all items listed under the subheading of the consent agenda will be adopted with one motion unless they are removed from the consent agenda by a trustee for discussion.
Make a motion to approve all items under the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Ms. Douglas
Second.
and second by Ms. Villagomez. All in favor of the consent agenda being accepted, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. Okay, and next we go to section 7.
And that will be Ms. Boulding presenting the end of course EOC report.
Yes.
Good evening. I'm here to report on the December EOC high school testing, as we do every February. We had our administration right before the break, and you have the report in your hand. It has 3 sections, and I'll just walk through a couple of highlights and take any questions. So the first section is the background of the students. This is pretty typical, but 96% of the students are retesting at this stage. Courses don't generally end in the fall. They may be students that ended as freshmen in the spring, took a test, maybe took it again in the summer and haven't passed it yet and are taking it again. And this could be students that are even a couple of years away from it and have not met the standard a few times. So we have some students that have come from other schools maybe or hadn't finished credits, so there are a few students here and there that might be taking the test for the first time. But that, again, that's pretty typical. In COVID, we saw there was a different type of split. And the second portion is the results. If you look at the 4th column, those are our participation rates for each of the 5 EOC courses. And the high school does a great job on that, getting students that maybe even have multiple tests, even with absences, to come in and make it up. We had a pretty long testing window, almost 2 weeks. And then the passing rates, when you look in that column, you'll see Algebra 1 through US History. These are never our highest scores, but we had some really good successes. Great job to the high school this year. Those last 3 scores, English 1, English 2, and US History, we were above the state and region, well above the state and region in English 2 and US History. And looking back historically, we made way more gains than they did too from pre-pandemic. So that was great work on those 3 courses especially. And then algebra and biology were our areas of opportunity. We were lower than the region and state in those. And they did go down as well as we did, especially with the content being so new year by year in those 2 courses with the pandemic loss. So state went down, region went down, we went down, but we went down a little bit more. So that's an area of definite focus for us. And so the last section is just reminding us that these 5 tests are required for graduation, and that's why we have students all the way up until the 12th grade taking them multiple times. And so the most important thing is to get these students to be successful in the standards and on the test. And at the district level, we're looking at programming and working with the high school, especially on the biology and the algebra for this spring, not only to help these students to be ready for it, but the teachers as well, because the STAR is changing, and this will be a new test for those students, and they might have taken the old blueprint multiple times. So that will be an adjustment for them in building their proficiency and their confidence. So we'll be working with the teachers and programs on that and supporting the high school. And then the high school, they do their own data dig and really work down to the level of the student and just work with those students individually to meet those expectations. So I think that's it. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the right? No? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let my system closed.
Is everyone here now? Okay, so can we go back to section 5B?
So we'll go back to section 5B, where we will now have our district recognition, R.F. Patterson.
Okay, I would like to introduce Mr. David Booble. He is a math interventionist that's been in the district, how many years? 10 years. He's been at the junior high, and then I begged him to go to Arthur with me, and he did. And then Dr. Vu let me take him to Patterson with me, and so he is amazing, and he has proven results. It's just an incredible thing to see how he can get students to transform their thinking about math and make incredible progress. And so we would like to recognize 3 students here tonight because of their math growth with Mr. Booble. Would you like to call them up and introduce
So
them?
each one of these students
Go
started out the year with gaps in previous grade levels based on MAP scores, STAR scores, classroom work. They have not only closed those gaps and caught up, but all 3 of these ladies tonight are working ahead. We have some of our 5th graders working on 8th grade material now as an enrichment. We have some working on 6th, and we have 3rd graders working on 4th and 5th grade materials. So they have really embraced once they saw their success, and so we just thought that you should see their faces and be able to recognize what they're doing. So ladies, if y'all would come down. Introduce yourself to the board, and I'll tell them a little bit about you.
My name is Aaliyah.
And she's one of our 5th graders and was not able to be here last month because we was at camp for the school event. Okay.
My name is Ayala. My name is Eleanor. My name is Zoe.
Good job, ladies.
Congratulations.
Good job. Get a picture of
Sorry, I
that?
didn't get a picture with them, but
That's over there.
all their grade levels, I mean, I didn't know if you,
So we have 3rd grade and then 5th.
all
So,
three, okay.
right.
Yes.
Get your time in here. So ladies, I'm gonna come over here. Capture for
Y'all are the big
y'all.
deal. Go on, y'all are the main event.
Go to the main event.
We're here for you.
Oh, no. This is theirs.
Mr. Booble, Mrs. Parkin in there?
sit in your seat this time.
That didn't sit in his.
We share, we're okay.
Skip that part.
All right, so now we're back to subcommittee.
Oh, are we doing student council as well?
That was last, last
It's
meeting.
not on the agenda.
Okay.
I know it's on there, but we did it
I
last.
think we had a student that was,
We had one, she was
Right,
not here last.
fifth grader.
she was not here last
Yes,
month, so
and she's not here
Okay.
this evening.
but I guess
That was
she
just
is-
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now we go down to section 7B, map growth report.
Look back. Miss, do you want to recognize the young lady on the student council?
She's not here tonight.
Do you want to go ahead and do it even though she's not here?
Absolutely.
I think that would be good, so.
This is Miss Lily, and I introduced her last time. And we left out a little girl who was here, and I felt horrible about it. And so we invited her again here tonight, and they couldn't make it. But her name is Alyssa Cortez, and she is the secretary of the student council. Would you like to say anything?
I'd love to. My name's Angela Lilly, and I'm at Patterson. We started Stuco. Mr. Kwan gave a wonderful speech last month. We're going to remember that. The kids are doing amazing. We've raised so much money. We just pulled off a dance. And we're trying to make the money go towards, we're going to try to help the PTO get to their goal, is what I've talked to Ms. Clark about. And the students are really loving it. They're coming together. They are showing leadership. They're doing everything that we've expected them to do. And I'm really loving it. I was in charge of Stuco at my last district, and I really wanted it here. I turned around in this place right here, and I was like, Carrie, I know you just met me yesterday, but could I please start student council? And she's like, Mr. Kwan's already doing it. And I was like, okay, we'll be best friends. So we have, and I think it's going really well. And I'm just so proud of all the Stuco kids, so.
Thank you.
Now we're on seven.
Now we're on to 7B, where we will do the map growth reports by campus.
And that will be Dr. Booth.
The mouse is moving on its own. Well, hello. I'm here to talk about map growth, and while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to pop up, just a brief overview. We give our map growth test 3 times a year, so we just finished our MOI, the middle of the year administration, in January, and so I'm here to report out on the results by grade level, campus, and content area. And we are so close to having the slides ready.
If y'all don't want to sit through the entire meeting, you want to, I mean, I don't want y'all to have to fill out the, sit there the whole time. I mean, I know you came for the recognition, so.
We didn't know what the rules were. It's like, is there more or should we stay?
There's a lot more.
Thank you again. Congratulations.
Or you can stay if you want. It's up to you all, but a lot of people just. You don't have to. Okay.
You can stay.
Yeah.
We're giving you the out.
I brought him back in.
Now we're ready. So we have map growth. I just give an overview at the beginning of each presentation. So it's a test that the students take on the computer. It is adaptive. It identifies skills and concepts that they are ready to learn. And it's designed to measure student performance, but most importantly, it's designed to measure growth over time. So the district in Kennedale, we started administering the test in 2020, which was a kind of a funny year. And so it took us a little bit of time to get it going smoothly. We're using it to monitor student progress. So just
quick reminder, we start administering the test in kindergarten and we go all the way through high school with different subjects. So one really important aspect of the test is that it measures growth over time. So we, as teachers, we get students in our classroom who may be 3 grade levels above where we are teaching. They may be 3 grade levels below where we're teaching, but our responsibility as educators is to make sure that we are meeting the students where they are and ensuring at least 1 year of growth. They're making progress while they're with us in our classrooms. And so I'm going to show you an overview of what it looks like from winter 2022 to winter 2023. So these are the charts that I've shared before. I know that these are helpful for you. So what you can see is the diamond, which is the projected growth. So based on where the students tested in winter versus where they tested in winter 1 year later. So I have a dashboard that I'm going to share with you today that looks from fall to winter so you can see what's happening this year. But this is an interesting graph because this measures the effectiveness of our system. So it goes across grade levels, it goes across teachers, sometimes across campuses. And so what you can see is most of our students in math are making at least 1 year of growth. And then in 3rd grade, you see that they're making a little bit more than a year of growth from winter to winter. In reading, we see strong performance in 2nd and 3rd grade. 9th and 10th grade, we'll talk a little bit about that. High school's different. Motivation for high school students is just a little bit different, and so that's something we're troubleshooting and working through in terms of our high school student performance. Language usage, this is grammar and use. This is basic grammar mechanics. One thing that's really interesting about MAP growth is that up to this point, it has given us projected proficiency. And if you remember the presentation that I gave in August, for most grade levels and content areas, it was within 2, 3, sometimes up to 5 points of where our students performed on the Spring STAR administration. And so we saw it as a strong predictor of where our students were headed. Now, as Ms. Boulding mentioned, STAR 2.0 is a different test. And so our students this year are going to be taking a different test. Previously, language usage, grammar mechanics, was tested in 4th grade, 7th grade, and high school. But now it's going to be embedded in all of the reading, on all the reading tests, starting in elementary and going all the way up. It's also going to include some short answer responses to questions, writing about reading. And so we don't know what that's going to look like. And at this time, I am not as confident in the projected proficiency this year for the STAR in the spring as I was last year. And also I do think that they're going to be adjusting this, and so we're looking at growth primarily this winter. In science, we had strong performance for our 5th grade students. Remember, this is winter last year, so the 5th grade students in this graph, they would have been 4th graders last year up through 5th grade. And then we have 7th and 8th grade came close to meeting their projected proficiency. So with that, I've also developed, people who aren't here that I can celebrate them, but the team of dashboard makers, we've created a digital dashboard that you have a link to in your board book. So I've shared this with you. You can look at it now. You can look at it later. But this is from fall 2022 to winter 2023. So what you can see here, this is the same graph as the one with the diamonds. It's the same graph as the one with the diamonds. It just has, it's a line instead of just the diamonds, because this is one that we created ourselves. So you can see across campuses, you can see across grade levels. We have strong performance in kindergarten at Delaney. Then you can click here and you can look at Patterson and you can look at the junior high. So we administered Algebra 1 at the high school, and so there's not the growth piece because it's a new test, and so they don't have the scale developed yet. Then you can look in reading. You can see observed growth versus the projected growth. So these places here where the bar graph is meeting the line graph, then you can see they're making a year of progress. So you can look at Patterson. You can look at the junior high. And then here you can look at the high school. Language usage, this is grammar. Language and use. So we can look at Delaney, Patterson, the junior high, and the high school. And then for science, you can see Patterson, and you can see the junior high. And then at the very bottom, there are arrows, and you can click through, and you can see different data points. So yesterday, I added this description for you so that it's very clear what you're looking at. So this is the growth projection. So what you can see is in 2022, when I stood up and did this presentation for you, kindergarten was projected, the average was 53%. And then this year was 63%. So if we see, for example, kindergarten at Delaney, if we see 53 versus 63, that means more of the kindergarten students at Delaney grew. There's more growth this year than last year. So we see that we're making progress. Now, that's not always the case. The hope is that the 2023 is higher. We're continuing to make progress. And then here is the junior high. And I'm going through this very quickly. You have a link, so you're welcome to look at it.
I'm sorry, Dr. Vu, where's the link?
It's in the information sheet in the board packet.
Okay, because we were clicking and not trying to.
Oh, yeah, I want you to be able to access it, of course.
At the very bottom, I'm in that one. Are we on the view link study?
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
So this is our agenda. So this is our, I just clicked on this, but I don't think that's right. I don't have touch screen.
I can send you an email when I'm done with this.
It looks wonderful. I just,
Of course. Yeah,
Just
that's
said
the goal,
first
is that you have access to it and you can look at the various
Okay.
pieces. Reading, did we look at this one? Maybe we're at language usage. So you can see Patterson, you can see the junior high, you can see the high school. And you saw, so what we saw is more growth 2022 than 2023.
Dr. Boo, can you go back to the Delaney for reading and math for 1
Yes,
second?
ma'am.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm. And when I get back to my computer, I'll just email all of this. I'll email it to your KISD account so that you can access it. So we have language usage, we have science. You can click through here. So we set up this dashboard so that as we move forward, we can just add the additional year. So we'll have 22, 23, then we'll add 24, 25. And so this is set to be built upon. And I hope you agree that it's meant to be user-friendly as well.
So what we're seeing there is third grade is the current fourth graders, right? No.
So this is 9th and 10th grade. So it depends on which tab you're clicking on. So across the top in the gray, you can look at Delaney here, and it has all the grade levels for Delaney. You can look at Patterson here. You can look at the junior high
And
here.
those are the current, but that's a current okay.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. And then we have science. So we have Delaney here, Patterson, and the junior high. So on the next page, and you're welcome to look at it, it has the projected proficiency on the STAR test. And as I said earlier, I'm not confident that these numbers are accurate because the test is changing, but it is something that's included in the report. You also have in your packet, I have a folder with all of the original reports. So you can look at the original reports, and then I've taken that information and put it into the dashboard so that you can see it. Overall, I will say that when I pulled these reports and I started looking at the data, I was very concerned. There were some highlights, absolutely, and there were also some areas that it was going to be very important for us to address. So some of the highlights that I want to just let you know about, because they're not going to be on the dashboard, is we had data meetings with each of the campuses. So after the reports came out, I scheduled data meetings with Ms. Bolding. We went to each individual campus. We met with the administrative team as well as the interventionist if they were available. We talked through the data to make sure that we were all on the same page. And we also provided for the campuses, we drilled down to the individual teacher and class level. So that's not something that I would present at a public board meeting. But I do think it's important as a campus leader that you can go and you can look at, is this an individual teacher? Is this an individual class period? Because if you can identify a smaller subset, then you can provide more targeted support there. So we talked through all of those things. We talked through the global data, we talked through the individual campus grade level data, and then we looked at the individual teachers. And there were some teachers, the one I'm thinking of off the top of my head, at the junior high, some of our teachers who teach our resource classes in special education, they had on average 200% growth. So 100% means they're on track to make a year of progress, and that's been an area that we've really been focusing on. You know, all students can learn. You adjust the way that the material is delivered, you adjust the way that you can teach, and so we have, one thing I talked to the principals about is, and looking at these teachers, celebrating the growth that was identified, because what you're seeing is an average, and absolutely there are areas that we can address. That's part of the campus action plans that are also included in your packet. Each of the principals after this meeting, they created an action plan with specific information for their campus. So you can take a look at those as well. Some of the big things that we talked about that were included, that I asked them to include in their action plan, were recognition of teachers and students, recognizing growth, because growth drives achievement. I also asked them to have individual teacher meetings. You know, sometimes just having the numbers in front of you helps you have more informed, data-driven conversations that can just be better for the administrator, be better for the teacher, and ultimately better for the students. And then each of the campuses, they're developing their own tutorial schedule. So one of the things that we talked about last year was with this April break that we have that's part of the Kennedale calendar, it creates an opportunity to do something kind of like summer school, except being proactive rather than reactive. So summer school up to this point, before HB3 came out and before HB 4545 came out, students who didn't pass the STAR test or who were absent and didn't receive credit for a course, they came to summer school. It's 10 days in the summer, and then they retake the test. That was happening in 5th grade and 8th grade, and it was happening in high school. Now with 4545, any student that doesn't pass the STAR test, they receive 30 hours of accelerated instruction, either during summer school or the following year. So one thing that I talked to the principals about is that we have a set of funds that can be used for tutorials. So we can have it, you know, it'll be campus developed because campus have different needs, different staffing needs and resources. They can bring select group of students in, students who maybe are really close to meeting that 1 year progress, really close to going from approaches, which is passing, to meet grade level. And they can provide targeted instruction right before they take the STAR in the spring, as opposed to waiting until a student doesn't make progress or doesn't pass the test and try to go in retroactively and make that adjustment. It's something that I am really excited about professionally and personally. In my experience, you know, the 20 years that I've been working with students in the classroom, I haven't seen a lot of success in terms of movement in summer school. A lot of times they come and it's hot, and many of them feel as if it's a punishment. And even if they do make progress at that time, the following year, you know, a lot of the summer slide and a lot of things just, they don't stick as well. And so this idea, the idea that we provide targeted acceleration for the students who care, want to be there, with teachers who are able to provide more small group instruction, I am very hopeful to see what this will look like. So it's going to be developed, organized at the campus level, because every campus has different needs and resources. But we do have the funding that we typically use for summer school. Because of the STAR reporting calendar, the state isn't going to release the STAR test or the STAR scores until mid-August, which means typically they release them at the end of May, and we're able to pull our summer school list. We're not going to be able to do that in the same way this year, and so we can take some of the funds that we would typically use for summer school, and we can use them in April, and we'll see next year how well that plan plays out. But I do think it's something that, it's an opportunity that we have in Kennedale that not all the districts have because of our very unique calendar.
Miss Moody, the link is on 7B. on the
7B,
packet.
on the agenda?
Yep. Tracy put it under where it says Dr. Vu will present. And the address is underneath that.
7B.
You don't see it?
Information sheet.
I'll get it later. We're good.
So as I mentioned, growth drives achievement. We're always focusing on growth. It doesn't matter where our students are. Sometimes our highest achieving students, they fall through the cracks because they come in, oh, they're fine, and they aren't making progress. And so MAP growth does allow us to track that. It does allow us to make sure that all of our students are having an opportunity to have instruction that's tailored to their unique needs. And this is something that doesn't have to do with MAP growth, but I wanted to highlight it. Ms. Volding mentioned it. What you can see is 2018, 19, 21, 22. And you have the subjects, so Kennedale, you have the region, we have the state. So one thing that we always want to look for is how the state is doing. So if you look at English 1, English 2, and history, and you look over on the side, you can see how the state did. So for example, the state from 2018 to 2022, they grew 7%, and Kennedale, we grew 14%. In history, the state dropped 7%, we grew 27%. And then if you look over here, you can see we almost doubled the state in retesters. So one thing just to put into perspective, when students are taking the test for the second time, 20% is about average, 35 to 40 is encouraging. Anything 50, around 50% is really great, just when you're putting it into context, because these are students who have oftentimes failed the test multiple times. So this is just something I wanted to point out. We've been looking closely at biology and algebra, finding ways that we can draw upon the success that we've seen in the other areas and pull it together, looking at different kinds of resources. But I did want to point this out. There are a lot of bright spots. There are great things that are happening, but certainly always places where we can continue to pull our resources. So I mentioned the action plan. You have access to that in your board book. Each principal developed that after our meeting based on some guidelines that I gave them. And so you can take a look at those if you have questions about those. And that is what I have for you tonight. What questions do you have?
Dr. Bill, I want to take you back to the plans for the target acceleration instruction. When is that anticipated to start?
Can you ask the question one more time?
Start date.
For which thing?
For the before tutoring,
Oh, so
targeted
we have
acceleration
tutoring that's already started. So the high school has already started the tutoring. The other campuses have started. So we have, in the secondary level, the tutoring has already started. They're doing some before school, after school. I think there's some Saturdays that are offered. It really has to do with staffing and teachers who care to be there and are able to be there. And then at our elementary schools, it's starting soon, very soon.
And I'm curious about the attendance, what it would be like for this approach versus what the attendance is like for the summer school.
Me too. Me too. I know at the high school they had so many students come that he hired an extra teacher. So
We've actually got 4.
they hired 4 extra teachers.
Tonight we had over, I believe, 60, almost 70. Anybody wants to come down?
So it's been very successful at the high school.
Tonight we're starting to have some success and some kids covers that are there. So
And I think Mr. Cagel's done a really great job of making sure everybody knows that it is available. And And it's working. We have a lot of interest at the secondary level, and I think that as parents continue to understand what's the options that are available and understand the kinds of resources that are available, I think that it'll continue to come
So
through.
I just want to make sure I'm clear, because oftentimes we hear, oh, high school students in particular are not interested. 60 to 70 students have shown up tonight even for the tutoring at the high school level, and obviously those are voluntary, that they're coming. to
They're
get the
highly
assistance.
encouraged.
I always say this, Dr. Routine, but, I always ask the question, what is the best way to motivate a kid? And the answer to that is you have to ask them. Ask them to join a team, ask them to attend tutorials, ask them to be in an extracurricular activity. If you never ask a kid or their parent to come, we are targeting our retention list, and I'm working grades 12 down specifically right now. I personally, and we've got some different people taking charge. We've restructured some schedules right now, so I've got more staff available for this effort because it's so critical. But right now, I'm taking on 30 young men and meeting with their parents, meeting with them, and I am asking them to sign them up at least 2 nights or 2 of the sessions per week. We're coming up with a plan and talking about steps because all these kids are so far behind, they don't know how to get out of this hole. What we're asking them the most is first to stabilize their grades, and then with some of them that are on the retention list, once they stabilize their current grades, we are actually opening up for the first time grade 9 and 10 credit recovery opportunities. One of the biggest challenges we're dealing with post-COVID is not just retention of current 9th graders or those 10th graders. We have a lot that got behind right at COVID and after, and they have not caught up since. And so they're stuck in 9th and 10th grade, and we're trying to get them to a point to stabilize their current grades. They also get attendance makeup hours, and then we're going to put them on Ingenuity. We're training our team tomorrow, and they're coordinating to do the 9-10 credit recovery. So, but we're talking with these kids a lot about what success looks like. We're getting them into our CIS program. We've started a girls group for support for them in some things, but we're finding out in those meetings, perhaps parents may have some paperwork on special programs that they need to be referred to. But I know that the last couple of weeks, and my counselors and I have led about, I think, 23 of those meetings. Maybe I'm off a little bit, but I had a couple more today, and our meetings and 504s. So when you say it is open to everyone, there's drop-ins from softball that come in after practice, but what we're doing is we're asking parents to send their kids and commit. We're placing phone calls. We ask them a question on the form. If your child is late, absent, or leaves early, do you want to be contacted? We log the kids in, and they get some of those blasts from Mr. Kegler, whoever's working Blackboard up there, and we're trying to do that through text, email, and phone. So right now, it is accountability and going back to parent contacts 101, but we're trying to get the parents to commit. I'm having deeper discussions with parents about transcripts and this, and hey, we could catch a couple credits if we attend credit makeup because we're having just a gap. I think we're used to high school giving the kids this. I don't think you'll ever see it. Okay, and so I'm really trying to get some parents in, educate them, and help them out. They're busy, they work, they have lives, and we're trying to be responsive to them. We're seeing some success today.
Thank you so much for all that hands-on. Thank you.
So
I'm sorry, I caused you all to be here 10 extra minutes.
Good information. Thank you.
So I think an important thing to note about high school or secondary specifically is that they can be motivated. It just looks different than it might in elementary school. And one thing that we've talked about at our principal meetings, we talked about in the individual data meetings that we had at every campus is, what else can you try? We've done a lot of things, traditionally. We have these opportunities that we haven't had before. Could you try something else? The April Academy idea. We've never done it before. I know different districts who've done something similar, and they've had great success with it. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out this year.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. So when you look at the data, and I know that I harp on data a lot, but when you look at the numbers in most of the grades on most of the campuses, at least 50% of the kids in the middle of the school year are at approaches, meets, or masters. So if they maintain that, I know it's a new test and all that, but we should see some progress. And then I would like to thank the principals. I know you had directive from Dr. Vu, but your action plans are very well put together. So thank you for the effort that you provide. Thank you.
They were so excited to share them with you.
They were so excited.
Yes, thrilled.
Any other questions? All right, good job. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Vu.
Thank you.
Thank
all
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will then move to section 8 on our agenda. Items requiring action.
Okay, so this is update 120, this is second reading. There's nothing significant in update 120 that would really require any major discussion. I just would propose that we just accept TASB's revisions as presented.
Any questions regarding that? Okay, then if that would, I would entertain any motion
I'll
for
move the
that.
board make revisions to the local policies affected by update 120 as recommended by TASB Policy Service and District Administration.
Second.
Okay, that has been proposed by Ms. Douglas, second by Mr. Glovier. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. Great. We will now go to 8B, discussion, consider approval of the 2023-2024 instructional calendar.
Okay, this is coming out of our GIC meetings as well as our survey that was sent out to the district. So Dr. Vu is going to present that, what came from all of those meetings.
So speaking of April Academy, we are here to discuss, present, and hopefully we bringing you a recommendation for the 23-24 instructional calendar. So just a quick review of what is required. We have to have 75,600 minutes. Most districts, Kennedale included, have more minutes than that for things like the ICE week that we had 2 weeks ago. Minutes per day in 2021, we had 475, 21-22, 450, 460, and then actually this year it's 460. Yes, 460. And then it must include 4 makeup days. And so one of the things that we have done, and I'm sure Mr. G's already shared this with you, in terms of the days that we missed last week, we had enough days built into the calendar that you adopted last year to cover all but half of that day on Friday. So the last day of school is meant to be a half day. We'll go the entire day on that Friday, and we won't have to make up any other days.
We may not have to go the entire day, so
We're going to go 230 minutes
So we may-
more,
so
because that's what we're
we're
somewhere around
calculating
there.
minutes the other day, but if we can still early release, we will early release, just maybe not as early as we had hoped. But if not, then we'll just turn it into a full day.
And that communication will be coming out, but this is just an illustration of we add some extra minutes there because there's always something that comes up, and I'm pro school. You know, I like it when students are in school.
On the commissioner's call today, they're going to require that I was hoping they were gonna give everybody a waiver to where we didn't have to do anything, but we're gonna have to make up at least the minutes to get to our 600 minutes. So we will have to do that.
And we can look at that. It felt good. Mr. G and I were at a conference when the ICE happened here, and so we were still going to sessions and talking to colleagues, and it felt good to hear other districts wringing their hands and talking through, well, we're going to have to go to school on President's Day, we're going to have to do these things, and us knowing that that wasn't going to happen for us, and that felt good. It made me feel very confident in the approach we take to the calendar. So the thing that's interesting is that students, you have to have a certain number of minutes, but then teachers have a certain number of contract days. Typically, you can't start before the fourth Monday in August, but our District of Innovation plan says that we can start earlier than that. And then we have to go at least through May 20th because of testing dates. So these are just some things that have come up. They've come up in previous years. They've also come up in the feedback that I've been collecting this year. Because of I mentioned this previously, because of the STAR 2.0 implementation, we won't receive our STAR scores until I think the projection's August 8th through 11th, allegedly, they say. And so we aren't going to have information, solid information about which students need to receive the HB 45 tutorial time until school's almost started. And if they push it back at all, it might be after school's already started. So that's very, very challenging for principals as far as scheduling goes. It's tough for parents. It's a tough situation that we have absolutely no control over. So one of the things that we've talked about is adding the 5 extra minutes to the school day. That gives the campuses the opportunity to embed that 45 time into the class day or into the school day. Right now they've tried to do it, but the 15 minutes, we're just not seeing, when we look at the data and we pull the individual students, we're just not seeing the progress. And so we're hoping that just a little bit of additional time will help make that difference. As far as breaks and holidays, April break is very highly supported in Kennedale. The DEIC, which is primarily staff, they were very vocal about it. And when I sent out the survey, most of the respondents were parents. They were also very supportive. I know not everyone is supportive. I am aware. I'm just making the calendar and I'm counting to 75,600.
Very good, Dr. B.
And early release days before the end of the fall semester and before the end of the spring semester are very helpful, especially for secondary when they're giving final exams, and a lot of the students have already taken their exams. Balanced semesters are important, so one reason why we start earlier in Kennedale, this is where April break came from, is that we start earlier so that we can finish the semester before winter break. It's helpful. It is very difficult as a high school teacher when you teach your heart out, the kids go home for winter break, they come back as if they've never met you, and they're supposed to sit for semester exams. It's hard on GPAs, it's hard on families, it's hard on students, and so that's an important part of the calendar that we want to make sure that the fall ends before winter break. We look at the UIL calendar, the STAR calendar, AP exam calendar, and then state and local elections. So this year, Patterson is an election site, and so there's just not a way to block off a place for them to vote on that particular campus, and so that's an important piece. We want to make sure that we have the November 7th election, that's a PD day, so that our students aren't, it's not a safety concern. And then we have the staff development. So we've experimented with different ways to embed staff development. There are a lot of things that need to happen at the beginning of the year. So we have most of the days put before the students start in the fall. The version of the calendar that I took to DEIC had, I think, only one professional development day built into the entire year. However, as I explained, we're always making recommendations. There's always another set of eyes. Like, I'm taking it to you. There's always another set of eyes that goes to it. So I did add an additional 2 days of professional development after talking to the principals, talking to our superintendent, and just talking through the different things. So for example, STAR security training has to happen right before you administer the STAR, and if we don't have a PD day built into that, teachers would have to stay after school, and it would be tougher on the staff. And so I did embed 2 additional days, which reduced the number of flex days that was originally discussed with the DEIC. So this calendar has 5 flex days, which is the same as we have in the calendar this year. So this is just the development timeline. I started out by talking to the principals, to our superintendent, and to our directors at one of our leadership meetings, collected feedback, talked through some different things that we had discussed last year, shared my notes. I went to the DEIC on January 23rd. I presented them with 3 drafts. I collected additional feedback, talked through some different options, came back, created a survey, sent the survey out. So at this point I have feedback from administrators, feedback from principals, feedback from staff, represented, all campuses are represented. And then we sent the survey out. I have the results, I'll share that with you. Came back on February 6th, brought updated drafts to the DEIC, talked through different things, said multiple times, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. So one example that came up in DEIC a couple of different times is we had a vocal group who said, I really like having that week before Christmas off. It just makes Christmas feel like Christmas because a lot of the events that happen at night, you can participate in those. It's just great for parents with small children. That makes sense to me. There was another vocal group on the other side of the room that talked about, well, right after New Year's and coming back, and I don't want to come back until the 4th or, maybe the 5th. And I said, we can have the week before Christmas. We could have the week after New Year's, but we cannot have a month off between December and January. So I'm going to need you to come to consensus on this. So we talked through it so you can see where we landed there. But those are the kinds of conversations that we have. It's one of the, no matter what you do with a calendar, there's always going to be somebody who is not happy with a piece of it. But I have tried so hard to take every piece of feedback I've gotten. Even with the DAC, I had them fill out a survey. Everything was included in one of the versions I brought back to them. And even after that, and talking with the principals and needing the extra PD days and knowing that some of the coaches were having a hard time with the flex days, we reduced that number, added more PD days, and this is where we have landed. Just discuss the feedback, the survey with the superintendent, director of HR, principals again, and today, February 16th, I'm bringing a calendar to you. So the priorities based on feedback are the things that I've already shared with you. President's Day is very important in Kennedale. I made the mistake, I think, my first year of not having a holiday on President's Day. I got a lot of feedback on that, almost as much as April break. So President's Day is marked off. And then there's an additional staff day built in at the end of the year, which was requested last year so that the principals would have time to set up 45-45. These are the survey results. We had, it looks like, 403 responses. Green are the parents, so it was mostly parents who responded. And then the blue at the top, version 1, that one had April break. That's what they looked like. And you all had the opportunity to see the survey. It was on the KISD website. So version 1 had April break. Version 2 just had holidays spread throughout. And then version 3 had a long weekend in April, but not the full week off. And so
But it
that's
spread the days out throughout the year more, which was the version that I had proposed, so I like.
Mr. G likes version 3.
You didn't get your version.
I didn't get my version.
We're still looking at a holiday, at least one holiday every month.
That was one of the priorities. And I will say, there are a lot of districts right now going to the 4-day school week, and that's a big point of discussion. It came up in the DEIC more than once. And one thing that's important to note is those districts their days are longer than 500 minutes a day. So those minutes are made up. It's not as if they're not coming. And then contract days, it looks different on the HR side. But I went to a session when we were in Austin with the Terrell ISD superintendent, and she said, we did it for staff retention. We did it to recruit staff. That is why. She said, because when teachers in the classroom, students benefit, and that was their reasoning. So we had talked about that I looked at it. I got a lot of feedback about 500-plus minute days, and people didn't want that. And so this calendar, when you compare it to the other calendars, it's a great calendar. The final DEIC meeting, I pulled up, okay, here's a calendar. Here's ours. Here's another calendar, some of the surrounding districts. They said, oh, wow, oh, okay. And so we really do hope that this will be a recruitment tool for teachers, either to retain them or to bring them to Kennedale, because as far as there's a holiday, there's a day off at least once a month. There are some PD days embedded, but it's not, once a month. So that's a little bit easier for all kinds of reasons.
And I think there's a major misconception that the 4-day work week, there's a difference between the 4-day work week and a 4-day school week.
It's for students.
To get
Teachers
to a
have to
4-day
work.
work week, you're gonna have to extend the school day, or you have to extend into the summer, and that wasn't acceptable to a lot of people.
You have to go into June. You can't finish before Memorial Day. So these are the things that were included. So we have 187 teacher days, 5 flex days included. And I've spoken to the principals about being proactive about making a list here. These are our faculty meetings. This is Meet the Teacher Night. These are all the things that, oftentimes we're just asking teachers to do on their own time. We can embed that into this flex schedule so that they are being compensated for their time. In many cases, 167 student days with 2 half days. 1 holiday per month. There's a fall break. President's Day is clear. We have work days that are embedded. March break is aligned with Fort Worth and Mansfield, which was like a request. April break is included. And then we have the last day for students and teachers. Teachers do have to come back after Memorial Day, but it's a day for planning and closing out the year. This is the calendar. I printed up a hard copy for you. I know you have a soft copy, but you also like hard copies, so that is what we have. So this is our recommendation based on feedback from multiple stakeholders. What questions do you have?
I have a question, Dr. Booth.
Yes, sir.
Explain Flex Day again for me, please.
Sure. Yes. I typed up so many things, but it was a year ago, and so I'm going to pull that from the cobwebs in my mind. I'm going to pull that out. It's essentially what would otherwise be a work day. So if I say there are 5 flex days built into the calendar, if there are people who say, Ms. King and I have had this conversation a lot, it's too much, I can't do it, I can't do these flex days, the response is, well, come to work in April, because that's where those days come from. So instead of a work day, it becomes a flex day, and we have a PD catalog that lists the various things that teachers can use. So I'm going to update that list based on feedback to make sure that it includes Meet the Teacher Night. We want teachers to come, and we know that that can be a burden, especially teachers with young children. It's going to include graduation. It includes PD, so there's a minimum number of hours that educators have to get to keep their certification, so it'll include those things. It's a variety of things, but it's not a choose your own adventure. Freedom within boundaries. Here's the list, and then each teacher has an individualized plan based on their individual needs.
Okay, thank you.
I have an extension on Mr. Esteban's question. So the teachers can't come to Meet the Teacher Night, so they come to Flex? Or I know the kids get it, and I know everybody's giggling because I'm usually the one that says no, but I'm trying to understand Flex.
I respect your taking a stand.
Explain Flex again?
So
rather than working the hours during the
The
spring
school
break,
year.
they can earn their hours doing PD, other things prior to that.
And they have to track it. Now, there's a whole different explanation on the HR side. I'm not sure if you want that, just in terms of how
So the
contracts
teachers
go.
can they get the time. If
They
they
have-
do the other activities, then they get the time.
They have to track
The kids
it.
already get it, but the teachers kind of like have to
It's for staff.
earn it.
Yes.
Okay.
See, the kids are on minutes, the teachers are on work days, and so there's this, and when you get the extra April break, that's 5 days, they've got to make up elsewhere.
Okay.
Can I elaborate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, and this may be redundant, I apologize. The teachers are scheduled 182 days for the year. Their salaries are set on 187 days. So you've got the 182 and then the 5 flex days that they can earn for the April break. They earn those hours outside of their normal workday.
Okay.
So it's for those events that you have mentioned or time worked during the summer and
Or
they
board
log. Board
Yeah.
meetings.
Okay.
The teachers earn 5, 11-month staff will also earn 5 flex days, and then year-round staff are gonna be a little bit more, just because our calendar's different. Okay.
The world asks a lot of educators. This is one of the few fields where there's all these after-school activities, and when I was teaching, as long as I can remember, the expectation is that teachers just come, and their personal time is not actually personal time, and so Flex is an opportunity for districts to have some flexibility in terms of work hours. So we have the set work day, which is the 465 minutes with a little bit of time on either end so that we can welcome the students and run dismissal, but then we have this extra time. So the misconception that you may hear that I want to make very clear is that we don't just make up a number for flex. Well, I think 66 sounds good this year. It's based on a 187-day calendar or contract. And so if we only have 182 days in the contract, in the calendar, and we're paid a daily rate, then we're not getting part of our salary for those 5 extra days. So the flex time has to be tracked, it has to be documented, it has to be, the supervisor has to sign off on it. But once we do that, then teachers are actually earning, they're working the 187 days, but they might do, instead of a 7-hour workday on April 8th, they might do 2 hours on this day, 2 hours on this day, 2 hours over here, and then 1 hour over here. So they are working their contracted time, it just gives flexibility. And that's what I think came up in the DAC, and I said it, and I asked them to share with their colleagues, but I'm still hearing rumors about, we're just adding flex, we're not. It's 187 days. The flex is based on a 7-hour workday. And so if we don't have the flex days, then we have to add 5 more days into this calendar somewhere where there's yellow. And so this just gives us flexibility.
And this is where the April break creates.
Mr. G voted for option 3.
That's where all the flex days come from.
I was under the assumption that this was anonymous.
Oh, he told me
Oh, okay, all right.
a couple times.
Any other questions?
Thank you for all your hard work on this. I think it's
Well,
great.
thank you, Dr. Lewis. Obviously took a lot of time.
It was
and
gifted
thought.
to me my first year here. I really appreciate the
Thank
opportunity
you
to
for
develop
also
the calendar.
sharing about the 4-day work week discussion points for everyone who will listen to this. I didn't get that. Oh. Did you try? I will try again.
We'll try it again.
I tried to make it work, but it'd be a very long school day, and we'd go through June.
Because I know there were a lot of conversations about it, so.
I think the fact that there was a survey sent out to parents this year was very good, and there was
Good.
a lot of positive feedback from
Yeah.
people, like, oh, they're asking us, and that was
Good.
very nice.
Happy to hear that.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wu.
Thank you so much.
So I brought a recommendation. I do need a motion.
I motion to approve the 2023-2024 Kennedale ISD instructional calendar as presented.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Glovier, second by Mrs. Douglas. Think she beat you to that?
She did.
All in favor of said motion, approving the calendar, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Order, Mr. President. Just for the record, I always vote for it. I always vote for it. I usually make a comment, but I always vote for it. No comment this year.
Different perspectives are important in this because there's not a perfect calendar. But I think ours is pretty great compared to others. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also appreciate all the board members getting all those questions answered for clarity purposes. Awesome. All right, we now go to section 8C, discussion and consider approval of resolution for continued payment to employees during emergency closure.
So we go from flex days to resolution to pay our auxiliary employees who didn't ask for the ice storm, but yet the ice storm happens, and when the school's canceled, they can't work, but yet they need to be continued to be paid. And that's basically what the resolution for is, to pay our auxiliary personnel for the time off whenever, they didn't cause it, so. And that's about as simple an explanation as I got for it, so. If you have more questions, then I'll bring Ms. King now.
A motion to approve board resolution regarding wage payments during emergency closure as presented for bad weather days.
Second.
All right, that is proposed by Mr. Glovier and second by Mr. Serta. All in favor of the approval of the motion, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. We're down to section 9, which is the superintendent's report. And that's Mr. G again.
All right, so, the first thing is the campus newsletters. I believe you have your s'mores in your campus newsletters. If you have any questions, we have principals, they can answer for you, but I think you'll see those quite often. So I don't know that we need to go through those necessarily unless you have questions on something. And then,
Wait, are you talking about the hires?
S'mores.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
and then the,
Newsletter.
let me get back, sorry.
9B.
Trying to get my computer to work with me here. And then we have the KISD newsletter with the news stories. You can read through that as well. That's kind of like, instead of a s'more, we have the newsletter that we send out from the district, which is a lot of things that are happening on the campuses. our enrollment update without going through and looking at, reading through the entire thing. Basically, we are 12 students down from last year overall. At this time, we have had 4 graduates out of KISD, which kind of come off that time, and then the Success Center, we had 1 graduate there. So that's, and our attendance are on the backside. We're still not where we were pre-COVID with our attendance rates by any means, but I think we are in better shape than a lot of other districts that I'm hearing from. But it is pretty consistent across the board that they're all hovering around, the 95, 94 percentile, where before we were up in the 97, 98 percentiles. Everybody's struggling to get back to that. We still have parents that don't necessarily get children to school, and they get late sometimes, and those are the things that we're facing, is that we've just got to get cooperation to get kids back into the classroom.
So I know we're doing incentives for no tardies. Are we doing incentives for attendance itself?
Incentives for attendance, so they're shaking their heads.
So it's not just tardiness.
Yes, we're gonna start at Delaney, we're gonna start a competition with the grades, with the percentages, and post it at lunch this last 9 weeks and try to get them to get that percentage up. And then PTO has approved or agreed to helping us with providing snacks to the winning classes.
Who motivates people?
All right, and then the next thing I want to go over is our, get back to it, is our, the housing developments and where we're sitting with that. Back now. Basically, we've had some more students enroll that are coming into the district. We now have 28 students that are new to the district out of the Hammond Creek apartment complex. But Magnolia Hill subdivision, we had 2 more additions there at Patterson Elementary School. So we have a total of 13 there. Alta Landing Apartments, 12, Hammond Creek, 30, and then 9 at the Oaks Garden Homes. So our total new student enrollment is 55 out of those developments, but new to the district is only 39. Okay. All right. And then to go over. You have the pictures, Brian, that you can pull up. So Brian's going to pull up some pictures from Arthur. So as you can see, the demolition is almost completed, and they are almost ready to start going back in with covering up things with the walls. So demo portion, about another week or so, and then coming back in. In fact, you can see where they've already started kind of reframing some of the walls. They've already brought in the sheetrock to start covering things up. When they start covering up things, it'll start going fast. So you can see this. Can you go to the next picture, Brian? Okay, so you can see how spacious these rooms are going to be. So, and then this is the kindergarten classrooms upstairs. Next one, Brian. This is downstairs in the pre-K. That wall's coming out, so that room will look very similar to the ones that you were seeing upstairs. Next one, Brian. Back upstairs to the other ones, and one more, I think, 1 or 2 more. As I said, you can see how spacious these rooms are going to be. And the next one. Okay. And I thought I had one with the wall where they'd already taken a wall out. I guess I put it in here, but they'd already taken one wall out and replaced the wall where they moved the wall to. So, and that's already framed out. So they're already starting to go back in with the framing. So we're moving pretty quickly. I know everybody's concerned about time frame and all of that. So but right now we're staying on schedule. And with the ice, that was a concern. But the demo has gone very, very quickly, and they feel like they're on pace. So, okay. Very good.
So just for clarification, they're on pace, but they're on pace to open up for
23, 24 school year. Okay. And that's the other thing I was gonna go over. We have sent out a survey to our kindergarten parents. There were some things that came up, and as we started looking at it, if you look at this kindergarten class right now that will be first graders next year, they started off in pre-K, all at Delaney. This year, they moved to kindergarten on their campuses, so the Patterson students went from Delaney to Patterson. If we move them in first grade back to Arthur, that would be another move. And then to move them back in second grade back to Patterson, that's a lot of moving. And so we sent out a survey to the kindergarten parents specifically, just to them, and asked what their preference was. I believe we sent out 200 and something surveys, but I think we had 80 something, 82 responses. And out of that, it was overwhelmingly 80% to stay on the home campus for now and not have to transition back. So we're looking at pre-K and kinder moving over next year and first grade staying where they're at. Okay. All right. And that's pretty much my work there. I got some more things when we get to board discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. G. Okay, then we will go to section 10, board discussion.
Right, so we have spring break, obviously, so we had our meeting scheduled for the 23rd, but that's a complication for Mr. Glover. We're looking at, we were looking at moving it to the 9th. That is a very quick turnaround from this meeting to that meeting. It can be done, or we can move it to the 30th.
Do that,
If
do
that's-
that last week.
The 9th is the Perot Museum night.
Is
at-
what?
The 9th is the Perot Museum night at Delaney,
Okay.
so 30th might be a better option.
The 30th is the second grade musical for Delaney. So I won't be
I
in
could do
the
that Tuesday.
Or is there anything on Tuesday
Of that
of
last
that
week.
last
The
week?
28th? No.
Anything, the conflict there?
March 28th?
20, that would now be the 26th, I guess.
No,
that'll
the
be
28th is
28th,
Tuesday.
sorry, we said
Tuesday
the
the
28th.
28th.
I'm right, 28th, or I'm wrong.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Lee?
Yes, sir. March 28th works for me.
I think there are some things scheduled for the school district, but I don't know that, I've got a GT packed meeting at Kennedale ISD, 6 to 7, CSS building, there's another meeting. So I think there are some things, or maybe that's the
We have a
GT
lot-
packed
We're
meeting.
gonna have a lot of
Yeah.
meetings,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, we're
So-
always gonna have conflicts with
Right.
things, so.
I'm just not here.
Or do you, I mean, I know you don't wanna miss a meeting, but, I mean, we could leave it at the 23rd. But
Move
I
to
think
the-
there's something else.
What
in
about
there.
the
Not
21st?
I'm not here the week after.
Oh,
spring
the
break.
whole week, okay.
It's gone the whole week.
Sorry.
You're gonna bring
Let's
us
just do the
food?
28th.
So,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, March 28th, then?
You good with that date?
Yeah, I don't have a GTR right now. Just saying there are things for the district.
Okay, then we're looking at the 28th for the next meeting
That's fine.
That's fine.
at 6 o'clock.
All right, we good there?
Can make that happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
And
we got that.
is there
And-
another meeting date we need to discuss? I think well, it's down here on C, we'll just go over that, so. Setting up,
So,
team of eight.
10B, the legislative conference in Austin.
We will be heading down next week. Sorry. Good gracious. So I have the tentative itinerary. It's still kind of changing. I got confirmation right before I came over here that we have a meeting set up with Representative Collier as well. So right now we have Representative Collier, Senator King, Representative Cook, and then I'm working on Senator West and Representative Turner. So, and
That's good.
we'll see how many we can fit into that schedule. But that's kind of between 11 and 3 o'clock to fit that in, and fitting lunch in somewhere. But you have the itinerary. As I said, on Tuesday, the training will be casual dress, and then we will be business dress for the Capitol visit.
And then that's the itinerary going back. Let's see. And then I created a sheet for you that it's basically a front and back sheet that I would like y'all to read through, and legislative priorities. I kind of gave you the thing with talking points with Senator King before. I just basically put this into a sheet that's representative of the entire board, so if you all read through it, you got any changes or things that you would like to put in or take out, and then let me know before we head down to Austin. Okay?
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Now we're on C.
And then we'll now go down to 10C, the discussion for the Team of 8 training.
All right, so we have to have Team of 8 training once a year before May, so we need to schedule and get that arranged either in March or April. So whichever you prefer, that'd probably be a special meeting because it'll be a 3-hour training, so. And do you have any preferences on who you would like to run the training or where you want, what kind of training you want for Team of 8?
So the person who did it last year, I was pretty good with them. Did you guys have any issues with the person who did it last year?
That'd be great, except he's no longer with the Region Service Center. That's too bad.
Dale?
Yeah,
What
we
about-
kind of, we parlayed that, I think, with the attorney and with him, but he's no longer working with the Service Center.
Okay.
So, okay, but I'm sure they'll have someone else.
Yeah,
Maybe you come back with them, find out what's the recommend,
Okay.
what's the recommendation.
Check with the Service Center.
and whoever his counterpart is now.
Yeah. They had to replace him with somebody. so.
Right.
I was just letting you know that he's not.
Not
gonna
him.
be it.
So we're gonna need to pick a date for that now, or we'll be able to do that next month?
Which are you thinking, more March? Well, we got breaks on both, so that's gonna affect it, so.
Probably April.
And he's out.
Right, so I think
There's
Spring break number
April.
2.
So April, everybody thinking April's better?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll try to set it for some time. That's good. All right.
Okay, that works for me. All right, and then section 11, resignations and retirements.
We're getting to that point in time where the retirees are gonna start turning in their resignations, and, you know, there are some people that have already started doing so, and so you can see that. I'm not going through all that. I will say at this point, at the high school, we are, teaching-wise, we are fully staffed. At the junior high school, fully staffed. I think we have one position at Delaney. Patterson, I believe we are fully staffed. Am I right or wrong? Well, when I say staffed, teaching-wise, so.
I need one special education teacher.
Okay, so we're, once again, I'm gonna, say it, we are in a lot better shape than a lot of other districts. But I will say auxiliary personnel continues to be a concern, and we're gonna have to work on that. That's one of the talking points I wanna talk about with our legislators when we get down there. They mentioned a lot about teacher pay, which is important, but I think they need to address all staff pay, as when they're looking at a $33 billion surplus, and how we can help all of our staff, as opposed to focusing on teaching staff. But that's my,
I won't be able to attend, but I will go on record to say that they need to pay the administrators more. They, like you said, the teachers always get a raise, but administrators and central office administrators, you're left out of the loop. So when you all do talk to them.
Another issue is they're looking at raising basic allotment. There's a lot of talk with raising the basic allotment, but in our situation, the state raises their portion, okay, but then all the other surrounding giant districts, they continue to add on what they're paying above state base anyway, so how does that help our situation, and that doesn't. And so the money's gotta come from somewhere, and that's one of the things that we face, so. All right, that's gonna be a good talking point when we go down there.
I agree.
All right.
11B for hiring of personnel.
I said I kind of covered that we've pretty much filled positions right now, so I really have no reason to go into closed session at this point in time unless y'all have something that you want to go over. So.
I think I sent you some questions, an email with some questions.
I didn't receive it if you did, sorry. But you want to go into closed session and discuss it?
Well, I wanted to give you time to prepare the responses, so I guess we can do it next time.
Okay.
Did you receive it? Because I think I sent it to both of you.
I did not see it, but I've missed a thing or two in my lifetime.
Okay.
But I have not seen it. I checked my email today. Was it today?
No.
Was it personnel-wise, or?
Some of it was, yeah.
Okay. Well, then, we can, let me check into it. And
Okay.
maybe back
Yeah.
and do it next time, okay?
Yes.
All right, that's it for me.
Mr. President,
Yes.
can we go back to 11B? I just have one question.
11B?
On one of the new hires, is Ms. Church the same Ms. Church that was working for the district last year and is returning?
Yes,
Okay, that's it.
but in a different.
I saw that. So she was a science
Yeah.
teacher, now she's an art teacher?
Art, yes,
Okay.
yes, she can be the art teacher. She's a certified teacher, but she's working on her certification, but she has the DOI qualifications to
To do-
teach the art.
To do art, okay, 'cause
Okay.
I'm looking at her certification, I don't
Yes.
see science, but thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'll give it a second. I believe that actually brings us to the end.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Glovier.
a motion that we adjourn this meeting and get up out of here.
I second.
I don't even think we need a second on that. I agree, I concur. Meeting adjourned.
I want you to notice the time, people.
7:30. No